Hello, welcome to Paul's Take. And we are breaking a little bit of a tradition here. It's like a 3 or 4 night tradition. This is supposed to be my 4th night live, but it's having some technical difficulties. And also, I'm kind of questioning the whole setup with with YouTube. The way YouTube sets up your live. For some reason, like if I do a video and I send it in, it'll be uploaded in a matter of minutes. If I do a live show, you'll see it live. So obviously they have the video on hand, but then you can't, but like for some reason after the live video goes out there, then it takes like nearly half a day, like 12 hours or even longer for other people to watch it, not live. You know what I'm saying? So I think I'm going to do, I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I'm just going to, today, this will be out a little later than normal. I'll try to do a show every day at 12:30, but it is now, I don't know, what time is it? It's now 12:17. So I went on early because I know once I upload it, it's going to be past 12:30. You know what I'm saying? So I should have did it at 12, but life goes on, and I just gotta fit it in. So I know 12:30 is a good time for me. 12 is not. So I might still try to do it. I guess maybe it depends on the topic. Today I feel like since we're talking about earthquakes, and there might be one, you never know when this will be the next earthquake in the world. Did you feel that? No. Seriously. Focus. You never know what's going to be the next earthquake, and I feel like there was an earthquake today, so it just needs to go out sooner than later. That was the plan. So today we had an earthquake here in North Carolina. It wasn't huge, but it was huge for here. It was actually super huge for here. It was the second largest earthquake in recorded history for this area. Excuse me. My apple juice. Gotta get that in. So it was the second largest recorded earthquake in this area in recorded history. The last time that they think it was bigger was 1918. Let's ask Google. Let's see here. I guess that's not working. Oh, what in the world? When was the biggest earthquake in North Carolina? I didn't go out right. Hello, Google. Hey, Google. When was the biggest earthquake in North Carolina?
July 8, 1926. According to CNN.com, this marks North Carolina's strongest earthquake since a 5.2 magnitude struck Mitchell County, about 50 miles northeast of Asheville, on July 8, 1926, the North Carolina Geological Survey says.
Wow. So, we had a 5.2 magnitude earthquake on July 8th, 1926, and a 5.5 in 1916. And this one today, I believe, was a 5.1. So I guess it was the third largest. I heard it was maybe got ranked as higher. Let's see here. Hey, Google, what was the earthquake magnitude in North Carolina today?
According to NBC News, a magnitude 5.1 earthquake was felt on Sunday morning near Sparta, North Carolina, according to the U.S. Geological Survey.
Spartan. It was here in Spartan. You can take our lives. No, that's not Spartan. It's Sparta. It's different. It's not the same one. So, I guess it's the third largest. I heard earlier it was the second, but apparently they're wrong. It's my assistant now. My new assistant is Google. Can't afford a co-host, so Google will have to be my co-host. So anyways, that's still pretty good. I mean, really, the strongest was only 5.5 in history, and the next one was 5.2, and this was 5.1. So that's pretty strong for this area, right? So what does that mean? That means, see, I'm not exactly an a certified, bona fide expert, but I'm pretty darn close. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, and earthquakes are a way of life. We have them every day, every single day, in California. It's just crazy. It's out of control. Okay, maybe not every day, but we've had a few, and I've been through a few. So when you're there, you're always kind of keeping your ear out and your feelers out for earthquakes, because you never know what's going to be the big one, the one that's going to drop the California into the ocean and have Nevada be beachfront property. So that's always in the back of your mind. So you're always kind of listening for earthquakes, because here's the thing about earthquakes: you are it's most likely to have earthquake after an earthquake, right? So if there was no earthquakes for a while, if you go on for a while with no earthquakes, then odds are there's not going to be an earthquake, right? It's kind of weird that way. But as soon as there's some earthquakes, it doesn't even matter where it is, like on the planet, really, especially say in North America. If there's an earthquake anywhere near North America, then most likely there's going to be some earthquakes. There's usually never just one earthquake. And it's not going to be necessarily the same place either. So they can have one here. The next one might be in Mexico, or Alaska, or Los Angeles, or San Francisco, or somewhere else in the world. So most likely, I haven't heard of too many earthquakes lately. So having a 5.1 in North Carolina where we don't have earthquakes, that tells me earthquakes are coming. That's right. So be ready. Be ready for the earthquakes. It's going to be out of control. Hopefully they won't be on the East Coast, because we're not like the West Coast. West Coast, everything is like earthquake code when it comes to housing and buildings and stuff. North Carolina, we're using bricks. There's bricks everywhere on the East Coast, because we don't have that many earthquakes. So I'm not like psychic. I'm not like looking at my crystal ball. I didn't have to pull it out. I didn't have to use it. I didn't have to, because this is just experience. Where will be the next one? It's kind of crazy how like all the stuff is coming around all of a sudden. Like we have earthquakes, we got rioting, we got plagues. It's the end of the world, baby, as we know it. And I feel fine. But seriously, it's kind of weird, right? If I was a highly religious man, and even like I got a buddy of mine I work with, he's highly religious. There's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. He totally thinks it's the end of the world. It's the second coming of Jesus or something. I don't know. The horsemen are coming. It's going to be crazy. What do you think? Is it the end of the world as we know it? I guess, the world's always changing. The world constantly changes. And then, I gotta admit, it would seem like to me that we've been pretty much, it's been pretty calm. Nothing too exciting. We had 9/11, that was huge. And then, but realistically, I mean, if you're in the home, if you didn't go to war, if you stayed here in the United States and you have your regular job, and you're not a soldier, life pretty much went on as normal. I mean, over here in the States, I guess maybe because we're so isolated from the rest of the world, it's been on the mainland here. It's been pretty peaceful for a long time. I mean, it wasn't perfect. We haven't been perfect by any means, but it's been in the history of the world. It was a pretty long period of peace. You don't get attacked really by bombers, nukes or something. We are, knock on wood, we've been pretty lucky, right? Because if you're like the Middle East, they're always in conflict. They're always throwing rockets at each other and kind of blowing up stuff. So we've been lucky, and it's been I would say the last shakeup. The real last big shakeup had to be World War II, right? Then it was Vietnam, but that didn't really hit the homeland, but of course that was a big stir up. But you had like they had the peace before the 20s, the Roaring 20s, real peaceful prosperity. Then you had, so that was like one period of the United States, and then you had the Great Depression. So that changed the way the whole world. It never went back to the Roaring 20s after the Great Depression. It was something different. And then finally, after World War One and World War Two, then now you're like in the 50s. Now you're like, hey, we're cool. We get all this manufacturing ability and everything changed. So now like the 50s were kind of like, I don't know, kind of hip. You saw Happy Days, right? The 50s. They seemed like a fun time to be around. You saw Back to the Future. And then the hippies came around and rock and roll got kind of wild and crazy. And so then it was the 60s. Free love. Hippies, baby. Kind of crazy in the 70s, 60s, 70s. And then had the AIDS and all these other cooties. And the 80s were kind of boring. But it had pretty good music. Hey, kind of calmed down a little bit. Kind of hip hop. 90s, nothing too exciting in the 90s. 2000, now we're getting into like a new world with all the cell phones, smartphones. So we're like in this new world now where nobody talks to each other in person. It's really weird. We've definitely gone into a new new time, right? Because now all of a sudden we're in the smartphone generation where everything is like, if I want to talk, if I need information, hey Google, what time is it?
It's 12:28 a.m.
Is that awesome or what, dude? I didn't even push a button. It's just right there for me. I just got this laptop, so I'm pretty excited. I just realized I could do that. I didn't even know they did that. I know your phones did that, right? But this is a laptop, so that's kind of cool. So that'll be my assistant. But now we're like in this era where I almost feel like, we had back in the Martin Luther King days, they had these big protests against civil rights or for civil rights, which was great. And I think right now everybody's like, they're like looking for a cause. So we're doing all this rioting right now, and I think people are just looking for a cause. And granted, it's a good cause. I think a lot of it, I think most people that are 90% that are like protesting and whatnot are doing it for the cause, for like, civil rights. Make sure, for fighting for equality, which is great. That's perfect. Hey, should do that. But then of course there's people that are trying to stir the pot up with political stuff, their own agendas. The I can't pronounce it. People that try and just destroy the planet, trying to like burn the place down. Sometimes that happens to me. Sometimes I just forget a word. I'm getting kind of old. Stuck with me. Whatever. I'm sure I'm talking about. There's people that are trying to infiltrate the protesters to do their own agenda. We're not talking about that. We're talking about earthquakes. For the love of Pete. But it seems like to me, maybe I'm not a holy man. I like to think of myself as spirituality, though. That maybe the world is shaking us up a little bit. Maybe the change is the fact that back in Cali, we had this thing called, believe it or not, earthquake weather. There was no scientific backing by this, but we believed there was a such thing as earthquake weather, right? What is this thing you say, earthquake weather? Well, what we called earthquake weather, where it seemed like the earthquakes were more prominent, was when it was really hot in the daytime and then really cold at night. So you get the heat that expands or contrasts, and then the cold does the opposite, whatever that may be. So you get these fluctuation in weather. We thought that might shifted the Earth a little bit. It might have like the flex of the Earth because of the different temperatures caused it to be an earthquake. Do you believe in earthquake weather? We didn't have that here today, though. It was just straight up hot. But we are having a change in the atmosphere in a sense. And I'm not sure if this could cause an earthquake, but a lot of people have been out of work, right? You've been out of work. We're not driving around as much. The air's cleaner. They might have some kind of effect with the clean air. And now that people are getting back on the road or driving more, now it's polluting the air a little bit. There's more smog in the air. Maybe that has something to do with the Earth kind of flexing a little bit, shifting, causing some kind of shift in the planet, on the Earth, the ground, the soil that causes earthquakes. It's possible. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. What do I know? Alright, so in case you're wondering, what do you do in an earthquake? I'm only doing this because I'm still vowing to do my same kind of format as my show, which is basically 30 minutes long. So we'll talk about what do you do in an earthquake. Being from California, us Californians, we were raised on earthquake drills and also common sense. They tell you one thing, of course, on television. Now, like I said, this is my personal experience. Choose to do so if you will, if you want to. Don't blame me if you get eaten up by the earth or something, get killed or something. Don't blame me. But here's what we did. In an earthquake, what they taught you in school was when there's an earthquake, you put it on top of there. When there's an earthquake, got a mic right here. It's my new mic. What do you think? Sound pretty good, right? All right. So during an earthquake, what you do is you would go under a sturdy table, right? That way, if the roof falls down, the table hopefully would hold up the roof. Or if there's not a sturdy table handy, you'd go to a door well. And apparently the door wells supposedly are stronger than being in the middle of the room. So those doorways are possibly supposed to like hold yourself at the doorway, and that would keep you safe. Now, us Californians, right? We have our own system, and this is not what they teach you. So, do it at your own discretion. But what we did, if there was a significant size earthquake, and I'm talking 7 or 8.0, not those little baby ones, 5. That 5 wouldn't even we wouldn't even get up for a 5 or a 6 probably. 6 will get us our attention, but 7 or 8, this is what you do. You, if you can, hightail outdoors. Hightail to a nice open parking lot or something. Get away from the building. If it falls, then you're not in it at all. Bone out. Get out of your house. Get out of your building, especially if it's an apartment building. Get out of that big old structure. I think a smaller house would probably do well. Probably less likely to fall over. Unless it's made out of brick, it might crumble. But if you're in an earthquake and you're in a building or some, shady construction, get outside. Go, like I told my kids, I said, look, if there's an earthquake, now that we're in North Carolina, now we're having earthquakes, and it's a pretty good size, we actually have a park right in front of our house. Get to that park, just hang out in the middle of the park, and just hang out there and wait till it stops. Because nothing will fall on you. Now granted, there is the super small chance that the ground will open up and swallow you alive. But it's really rare for that to happen. I've seen some parts of the earth that was shifted. It was once like this and then it shifted over. It might be even up, elevated a little bit or something like that. Never really seen a gap. I've never seen a gap myself. Don't mean that they don't happen, but I've never seen one. What have I seen? I was in a Northridge earthquake, and that was That was pretty good size. Let's find out. Let's ask Google how strong that was. Hey, Google.
I can't reach the internet right now.
Oh,
Check your modem or router connection and try again.
What do you mean you can't find it? Find it. Do it now. Do it faster. Slacker. She's saying she can't find the internet. Hey, Google. I'm talking to you, Google.
Great, let's talk. Are you a cat person or a dog person?
I like dogs. How about yourself? Oh. Hey, Google. How strong was the Northridge earthquake?
According to Wikipedia, the 1994 Northridge earthquake was a moment magnitude 6.7 blind thrust earthquake that occurred on January 17, 1994, at 4:30, 55 a.m. PST in the San Fernando Valley region of the county of Los Angeles.
So that was a 6.7. That was huge. I mean, it was huge to me. It was huge to everybody. That was like the biggest one we had in a long time. So that really got our attention. And we ran out and grabbed water. Funny thing is, all the earthquakes in California, we never did take up all the toilet paper. That's a new one. But I guess it's because it's a national thing. I don't know. I don't know what the whole paper toilet thing is, but that was that. It's pretty interesting though. Let me tell you. So when I was like 20 years old when that happened. 19, 20 years old. And I was working as a security guard. And they would send me to the valley. That's where the epicenter was. They would send me to the valley. And we would be posted at locations that had damage. So I was posted at this one shopping center. It was it had a big, like a J.C. Penney's, I think it was. And they had this huge brick wall, or was it brick or concrete? It might have been concrete. I think it was brick, to tell you the truth, which is kind of rare. This big wall. Anyway, it's either concrete or brick. And it was a huge wall, and it went like probably 4 stories up. And the earthquake had shifted the wall away. So it was leaning. It was supposed to be straight up. It was. And so they were waiting for it to fall over. So I had to stay there, just watch the wall. And if it fell over, then I had to call somebody and make sure nobody looted. So that was my gig. So I was sitting in the shopping center. It was middle of the night, so I don't remember if they were open during the day or not, but I was there doing a third shift like we are now. Third shift rocks, yeah. And I was sitting in my car. I was had a little RX-7. Sitting in the parking lot in my car, staring at a wall. But we have a ton of aftershocks. And it just felt like I was sitting in the car, and it felt like somebody would get behind you. You know, like your friends when you were younger would get behind you in your car, and you'd just like start pushing on the bumper, and your car would go. So that's what it felt like. So I would, turn around. Oh, it's an aftershock, and then I'd be looking at the wall, waiting for it to fall over. But the wall never fell. Thank goodness, right? But it was creepy though. And then also, like if you're in, like when I was in the parking lot or on the road or something, and you're stopped, and you can see the road from ahead of you or the parking lot, and an earthquake comes, you can see the road just going like that up to the horizon. What it looks like the ground is water, and you're looking at waves, and that's what it looked like. It looks like the ground is like acting like water. It looks like it's liquid. It really does. It looks like it's just water, just bloop. And you're like, it's a really uneasy feeling, because up until your first good earthquake, the ground has been pretty reliable. It's been pretty reliable as a solid object. So when all of a sudden that something that you were so accustomed, so sure of, so for so long, for all your life, the ground was always solid. It didn't move. The ocean moved. Water moves. But the ground was there for you. It was solid. But then all of a sudden, it's not solid. All of a sudden, the ground is acting like water. It's an uneasy feeling, I tell you. So if you never experienced it, I mean, hey, I guess it could be a trip or it could be terrifying. It's pretty scary. Ooh, let me tell you my other experience. If you've never been in a large earthquake, small ones, not so much. But like that one at Northridge with the 6.7, was it? What surprised me more than the shaking, which, to be honest with you, it shook so hard, I thought it was the big one. I thought it was the one that was going to sink us into the ocean. That's what I thought. It felt so strong. But what was really surprising was how loud it was. It was amazingly crazy, deafening loud. It was so loud that I was trying to yell to somebody in another room, and like they couldn't hear me, and I couldn't hear them. So we were trying to yell back and forth, and I couldn't hear a thing. Like, oh my God, it's an earthquake! Get up! It was like you're yelling and you hear nothing. All you're hearing is the noise. It sounded like rocks are smashing into each other, and the wood's cracking, and the windows sound like they're about to explode. But it was deafening. It was crazy, freaky loud. That's one of the biggest shocks that I had when I was experiencing an earthquake. It was actually so bad. I'll tell you how bad it was. It happened, I believe, they said it was like at 4:30 in the morning. I don't recall it being that early, but I remember I was asleep, and I jumped out of bed. Like I just leaped. It's like just the adrenaline. When you're young, you can do this kind of thing. You just jump right out of bed, and I landed on the ground, right, and it was shaking so hard. Like they said, I knew the drill. Go under, go into a doorway, or my goal was to go outside, but I got on my feet, and it was shaking so hard that I was not able to keep my balance. Oh, no, I was able to keep my balance. I was able to stay on my feet, but I could not take a step. It took every ounce of balance and whoa to keep myself from falling over. So it was like I could not even move. I couldn't move to get even to the doorway. That's how bad it was shaking, until it calmed down a little bit. But during the worst of it, could not move. It was insane. All right, well, let's wrap this baby up. So that's my reason why I think, and it's not really just my opinion, I'm just reminding you that when there's one earthquake, there's going to be more earthquakes. So be ready for them. Be ready. Go get more toilet paper or something. I got my stockpile. I've been stockpiling. I learned my lesson. So I have toilet paper. I'm not worried about it. And make sure also, hey, if you haven't, it's the first time seeing the show, make sure you hit subscribe, hit like too. What the heck? Help me out. This is a new channel. Like I said, I'm trying to do a show every night, Monday through Friday, maybe weekends too. It depends on the weekend. But I'm allowing myself the weekends off. But since I'm trying to get this thing rolling, I think the more practice, the better. But hit like, subscribe. That way you can watch the progression of this channel. Because right now, yeah, it probably sucks. But in the future, this will be the best show on the planet. That's right. And you could say, hey, I was with that guy when he was terrible. You should have seen him. He was horrible. Anyhow, thanks for watching Paul's Take. This is my take on earthquakes. Thanks for watching Paul's Take.